Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, Charles has been working a little bit on Streamlabs. He's thinking about switching it up to doing Streamlabs instead of using Talk Studio.
Oh,
But we'll see.
you
He
guys
was
know how
playing
to
with
do
that.
this better than I do. I haven't changed my methods in 10 years. I don't know why people look at me like I'm allowed to tell them how to do this. Why do I do the best podcast, Steven? I don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
don't know
see,
how to do it.
we switched it up because to Talk Studio, which is done by Streamlabs, but he wants to switch it up to like Streamlabs Pro. So it's the same company, but anyway, regardless, we switched up because StreamYard like doubled their price. So we're like, no thanks. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do it.
This is Wise and Nerdy, where fatherhood meets fandom, baby.
Oh, Charles. I tease this every time he's gone that he did this on purpose because he only gave me the version of the intro with his voice. That's the only one he gave. He's got a bunch of them. And every time he's gone, I mentioned that he did it on purpose so that regardless of whether he's here or not, it's always his voice is always there.
He's the rock god of podcasting. You can't do a podcast without him in it somewhere. You got to cram his ego into the show one way or another.
So, and I don't know what's going on because I've got the stream pulled up over here. The stream isn't showing it, but whenever people comment in the chat, like John is, I'm getting a little bling, and it's popping up on my stream, and I don't know if the bling is coming through on the on the recording or not. So we'll just have to play with it and find out. So yeah,
I can't hear it if that helps. I can't hear any blings.
Oh,
I'm blingless on my side.
You're blingless.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's see. Can someone put a test thing in there? Let's see.
Yeah. Bling it up.
Oh. That time when Random Kid did it, it didn't come through. I don't know where it's coming through. It might come throughout. It might not. We're just going to roll with it.
Yeah.
So, and it is coming up on the stream apparently.
Uh-oh. Can you silence the blings?
It's Charles messing with stuff and leaving it in a weird state. I blame Charles for everything.
When he's not here, we could do that. Yeah.
That's right. And there's a small chance he might join us later. It'll probably be from his car. So if that happens, we won't be able to really see his face. We'll be able to see the cars behind him. We'll find out. But anyway, as you can tell from all of this conversation, Charles isn't here, but Steven, our wonderful Steven, who Charles likes to call America's dad, is here. Steven
Wonder
Adams.
Steven. Yes.
So, and we will just roll with it. We've got the question of the week, which we were talking very briefly before the show about. What is the worst cold food? The worst cold food. There's a few that jump to my mind that I consider pretty good cold foods that are not traditionally eaten cold, such as pizza. But I don't know. What do you think? What thoughts are going through your head, Steven?
Oh, I had several because we were talking a little bit before we got going that I am a hot food eater. I have a crappy food palate, so it's got to be hot or I don't know what I'm eating. The only cold stuff I really like is cold stuff that's meant to be cold, like like a lemon meringue pie or like a popsicle or ice cream. But one of the things that I hate all cold things, but I've been sitting here trying to think of what would be the grossest cold thing. And certain things come to mind, like most soups that are cold. Like if you were gonna hand me like a plate of
cold tomato bisque,
Yeah, yeah, like clam chowder cold,
Oh,
or
oh.
or or chicken and dumplings cold doesn't sound good at all. And I'm assuming we're talking cold. We're talking either room temperature and below.
Yes.
Maybe not directly out of the
Or
fridge.
even yeah, leftover right out of the fridge, maybe.
Ooh, leftover right out of the fridge. That list grows. Most things are gross. Uh, I have people that love a cold pizza, love cold pizza and cold spaghetti, and there's few things that I find that are what someone else would say is reasonable cold food that I find more disgusting than like cold spaghetti. Not gonna do. I can't even do pasta salad. I hate it. It is not good. Oh, the full run through says French fries.
Yep.
Yeah.
Soggy wet noodle French fries. Unless you're gonna toss them in the oven or a toaster oven, like microwaving them is no,
No,
because they
can't do it.
lose their structural integrity. I was
Yeah.
thinking like maybe nachos.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like once they're
Wow.
cold, like especially out of the fridge, they're like stale chips,
Yeah.
and the nacho cheese is basically solid. Blah.
Oh, then it's
That's the worst.
definitely all one chip.
Yeah. What you can do with French fries, if you own an air fryer, it's not going to resurrect them to their glorious original taste, but it's better than other methods. I have used the air fryer to reheat a French fry, and it was still not good. What is it, Joe? What is it about a French fry when you eat it cold that it like clogs your entire esophagus? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you're like, let me try this, and it
Oh,
lodges itself into the
oh,
insides of your throat.
cold mashed potatoes.
Ooh, ooh. So
Ugh.
potato. We're kind of narrowing it down. Potatoes
Yeah, the
cold.
potato in general. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
If you have an
there's
idea of what can make a potato taste good cold, I'd like to hear it
well,
because
anything
I
that's
can't.
supposed to be melted and then it coagulates as it gets colder is just going to be bad. Congeals.
Oh, like fat, like a good old pork loin that you've had in the instant pot. You put that in the fridge for a night. You just got it with the fat just
Yep.
congealed and oh,
Oh.
gross. Oh, what did you bring me on this show tonight for? Now I'm just gonna be sick. You need to put a content warning on this episode.
Yeah, when you start using words like congeal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's a worse word in your mind? So a lot of people hate the word moist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not
Moist.
moist, it's congeal.
Yeah. What's worse, moist or congealed?
Oh
Uh,
no.
for your content warning, I'm going with congealed. I think that puts worse visuals in my head.
Oh, well, because congealed also makes me think of blood clots and stuff. Because
Yeah.
your blood.
Hold on. Let me
Oh.
vomit real quick. Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things. Even like hot chocolate's not horrible cold, but
Mhm.
it loses its lackluster because then it's just cold chocolate water.
Yeah, because it's not really depending on how you make it. It doesn't turn into chocolate milk.
Yeah.
It's just my son loves cold hot chocolate. That sounds weird to say. He likes to have some ice cubes dropped in it because he doesn't like hot drinks, and he'll still drink the hot chocolate. And I don't know how he does it. I need it to singe the lips just a tad.
I remember when I was younger, whenever my mom would make ramen for me, she'd drop an ice cube in there
Yeah.
because I didn't want to wait for it to be not boiling hot. But that's not the same because it's not like it goes to automatically from boiling hot to freezing cold. It's just
Oh yeah, it's
normally
lukewarm a little
normalizes it.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, brings it down so you don't have to wait. You're
Uh,
impatient, Joe, is what you're trying to say.
yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Now I'm trying to think of other foods that just are not no there's a lot. There's a lot.
There's a lot.
Most of it for me comes to when the consistency changes because of the temperature
Mm,
change. Um And
Are you a texture eater, Joe? Does texture
yes,
matter a lot to you?
that's why I hate mushrooms. It's not necessarily the
Yeah.
taste; it's the texture.
Dude, can you eat a Hostess snowball?
It's not my favorite, but I
Yeah,
can.
because I'm not a coconut fan,
Well,
and
and
it has nothing to do with coconut flavor. It has everything to do with coconut shavings being gritty.
well, no, I don't mind coconut. To be honest,
What?
I like coconut. So,
I'm impressed.
but the snowball has so many competing textures. Like
Yeah.
you, depending on what layer you bite into it, it's very very different.
Yeah.
So,
It's one of those you want to make sure you get a big bite so you get each because once it's by itself, it's like eating a cake that's got too much icing on it. Once you get to that last bite and you're like, this is just all icing, I'll skip it.
as a kid, that was great, but as an adult, I'm
Sure.
like, eh. And it's
Yeah.
funny to think of how your tastes are refined over the years and how drastically they change. Um, we were talking about cold food, but it makes me think of in anime and in Japanese culture, the thing that kids hate a lot in that zeitgeist is bell peppers.
Really?
Because yeah, so apparently, and I did a search on this because I was like, why is this a thing in anime? Because sometimes I'm like, culturally speaking, it's there, but does it have a wider cultural impact? But it's just um, magnified in this specific medium. And so I went down a rabbit hole with that, and apparently children are more sensitive to bitter tastes than adults are, and bell peppers have a bitter aftertaste, and
Hmm.
so a lot of kids don't like them, and it's because the bitter aftertaste hits them more profoundly than it does for adults. And
Oh, that's
so
fascinating.
yeah,
What
so
what's something I'm just going to keep this theme going for as long as possible. Joe, what is something that you would never eat as a kid that you have grown to like as an adult? I got a
there's a
list a mile
yeah,
long,
no,
Joe.
there's a lot of things. One of the things that I remember as a kid was not being huge on steak, and
Yeah.
it wasn't steak itself, it was the fatty bits of steak, and it was
Mhm.
again a texture thing.
Yeah.
um and so I remember asking my dad, I'm like, can we get steak without fat? And as a kid I didn't realize that's not how steak comes. um, and so occasionally he would cut off a bit of his steak and let me have some of it that didn't have the fatty bits on it.
Yeah.
Uh, and so different things like that where you just didn't know better.
Sure.
Hamburger doesn't have those fatty bits on it, but
It's
it's
all rendered into the meat. There are steaks that are more marbly and have more like a ribeye. Some people love a ribeye. I'm not a big fan because of the amount of gristle and fat that usually accompanies it. I like steak as a kid, but my mom would always cut it up and I'd get the little pieces, without the fat. Now
yeah.
I'm an adult and I just don't eat steak because everyone I eat steak with is obnoxious. And it's like it's the one food that you can sit around and eat with people that everyone has an opinion about
Oh
how
yeah.
you're eating it. And it drives me crazy.
You asked for it to be cooked wrong. You're not allowed to have sauce on it. If you have
Yeah.
sauce, it has to be A1. How dare you put ketchup on it? Like it's like
Why are you leaving so much meat on the plate? Why didn't you eat that part? It's just it makes me crazy. I'd never eat steak with anyone but my immediate family because I can't stand it. We're making steaks. I'm like, great.
Oh yeah.
I'll go hide
I,
and eat it in the closet where you can't find me.
I was listening to a podcast the other day done by a famous author, and he was
Mhm.
talking about how he likes his steak, and I guarantee there are people that judge him for it because he likes it on the cusp of well done.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and he said it's not even a taste thing; it's a texture thing.
I get that.
He doesn't like the texture when it's cooked less.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and so I'm just like, I didn't. I should go look at the comments to see if people are ragging on him. But what I loved is he is unabashedly himself.
Good.
I mean, he's such a well-known author that he's made so much money he doesn't care what other people think.
Yeah.
So,
Why does the steak have to be bleeding for me to enjoy it? Like, why can't it be just? I'm a medium to medium well person, and it's mostly just because I don't want blood juice running into my mashed potatoes. It's not my thing. So yeah, I'm good for him. Good for standing his ground and be like, I'm too rich to care what you think of me.
And I've actually gotten rarer as I've gotten older, but I
Sure, yeah.
don't think I'm gonna go past medium. Whereas
No,
my dad would tell people, knock off the tail and the horns and bring it to me, basically.
yeah. 5 seconds on one side, just sear it
Yeah.
and then hand it over. No.
Yep.
Nope. I'm out.
My dad. So
I'm not doing it.
anyway, let's go ahead and let's see if I've got the right button on this.
Question of
Nope.
the week.
We just did that.
Roll that dice.
Yes.
All righty.
Hey, what was it?
Nope.
Tell Mojo Jojo a story.
All right. This one, I figured would be a good one for the two of us.
Oh boy.
Tell me a story about your first experiences programming, or what got you into programming. Since you and I have both gone the software developer route, I thought that we would have some good stories to tell about it.
Yeah, man, because I grew up in the age of Angel Fire. If you don't know what I'm talking about, congratulations, you're still a young person.
You might not wake up with daily back pain yet.
yeah. Surprise! You don't take Advil daily to get through. Yeah, that's funny because when I think of programming, I think about more recently, like in the last 10 years, what I've learned versus learning HTML for the first time. But if I were going to start and just be like programming anything, building websites when I was 14, 15, maybe. Back then there was like HTML was its websites were fairly simple. You know, the code was fairly simple. There were tags.
And they all looked the same.
Stuff in. They were all the same, and everybody had a flaming fire horizontal bar and turned your mouse into a unicorn. It was the best when the web was pure.
Would start randomly here and there, and
yeah. Yeah, it was great. I think I got into it because I was in a band. No, before I was into a band, I was really into Space Ghost Coast to Coast. It was my favorite cartoon. So I made a little Space Ghost Coast to Coast fan site on angelfire.com. And I remember it had like a web, it wasn't a what you see is what you get editor. That would have been too advanced for the time. We're talking 97, 98, something like that. But it did have ways you could build a website with like layers. You kind of lay it out what you wanted it to say and text box and stuff. But there was an advanced tab, Joe, and that advanced tab was wonderful because it was just a blank text box. That was it. You could kind of get a lot of your stuff in, and then you'd go to the blank text box and it would fill in what that code looked like, which was a really great way to learn. And when I learned how to right click a website and click view source, blew my mind. I felt like I was looking deep into the Matrix, which hadn't come out yet. But if we could use a current analogy for a time when it didn't exist, that's what it was like.
You were on the grid.
Yeah.
Tron
you were on the grid, on the Tron grid. Yes. And I think I got into it because it was just it made me feel smart. Like it was simple HTML at the time, but it made me feel like I knew what I was doing. But like it's in terms of writing apps and stuff that did things, that's still fairly recent. I didn't get into that until my 30s. But a lot of what I wanted to do with that, I guess my late 20s, I was doing a little dabbling, but I wouldn't call myself a programmer. But it was mainly because I'm art brained. So you've had this experience too as a software developer where it's almost, as you're learning into it, it's almost very math heavy. Math is required, computer science degrees. Everybody's got to have like 14 maths.
It's got a math foundation, and then it transforms into a bit more artistic brain because of how
Mhm.
the creativity that you need. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm bad at math. I've always been bad at math. My highest math I ever took was college algebra 1. I don't even know what that equates to. I never took a calculus, never took a trig, never took a geometry. And this is all for me to encourage the children that listen to this show, of which I'm sure there are many, that just because you can't do math, don't let it slow you down. Because I love to write, I love art, I love computers for the things I can do with them, and it hasn't not knowing how to code random Fibonacci sequence level stuff. That wouldn't be random, but you know what I mean. It
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
it
it
doesn't
depends
matter.
on what type of programming you want to do. There's a lot
Sure.
that you don't need to have those math basics, but the logical part of your brain that activates for math will
Mhm.
come hugely in handy when it comes to
Yeah.
programming.
You can know how to solve logic puzzles and do logic stuff without knowing calculus. I just need to
Yes.
know if I do if this then that. That's most of what programming is. And
Well, and when you get down to the nitty-gritty, I think it's more like putting together a puzzle
yes.
because you're finding little code. Like a lot of times if you don't know where to start, you consult Google, and
Mhm.
people have written little segments of code, and you take this segment of code and this segment of code, and you take all the different puzzle pieces and you put it all together.
Yeah.
Um, so
It's it's not that different than the source code thing from a website. You're just working backwards. You're
yeah,
kind of going and grabbing stuff and then understanding it. And I think, like in today's day and age, where AI can help you do a lot, that's been a deep discussion around me and my coworkers and everyone I know that develops. Is like, what? Not now that we have AI assisted coding, does that mean anybody can code? And it's like, sort
sort of.
of. But I can code a lot of
Except
things. But
as long as it's not hallucinating.
yes, that's the
and
thing, Joe. Oh, go ahead.
well, and if you consult, Chat GPT or whatever you want, there's no guarantee that it will be up to the current standards either, because it's
Right.
pulling from stuff that's 10, 15, 20 years old, and it's completely outdated and won't help you in the current programming world, because it's full of all kinds of old standards or vulnerabilities or all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's and I've seen examples recently of really good models. One example, I love this one. It was writing a Python function, and don't check out on me, listener. But it's writing a Python function, and it was just a function to say, like, to take some input. In this case, it was like a daily or weekly task list maker, and you could put DW and then enter, and then it would tell you like whether it's a daily task or whatever. But it had an array in it, which is basically a list of letters it would accept as input. It had a little d and a little w and a big D and a big W, which would make sense, right? Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Except further down the function, it took the input and it automatically lowercased it for you. So no matter what characters you put in, it was going to lowercase them. So by having uppercase D and W as valid choices, it was creating a longer array than necessary. And it might seem like that's a small mistake because it is. But
Yep.
if you repeat that level of small mistake over 10,000 lines of code, then
Your
you end up
optimization
with,
sucks.
yeah, you're really not optimized. And we have AI that we're trusting to do those things. And then it's also potentially creating security holes. Like, is it doing input validation on forms and making sure you're not typing in drop tables and watching all hell break loose? Like, there's stuff that you need to know as a developer to look for to validate the things that are being written for you. Um, but yeah, we're one beyond first experience programming. But
Well, and there's probably a lot of people that are checking out, and they're like, well, what does that matter? Small optimization stuff.
Mhm.
When you compound it, it becomes a huge issue. Like I had an instance in my previous position where I was programming with somebody else. We were working on a project together, and he
Mhm.
got his stuff working in one of our environments, and then we moved it to another environment that had a much larger database, because it had data that we would use for testing with other companies, and so it had a lot more data in there because it was more actively used. And he went to run his stuff, and it was web based, and it completely timed out because it could not handle the load. And
Yep.
so I had to go through and completely re-optimize it to where instead of, failing to load, which most web browsers, it takes about a minute before it just gives up.
Sure.
It can change based on web browser, but I got it to where it was loading the massive amount of data within 8 seconds, which
Hmm.
is still a long time to load a web page, but our production environment didn't have near the amount of volume because the test one didn't get purged, and so
Oh,
it had,
okay.
yeah, it had data from decades and decades past, whereas the production stuff would get archived, or
Mm.
or it would naturally roll off because it was completed, because I work for an insurance company, so when the claim is done, it purges off the list.
Yeah.
um it's still in the database, but it no longer affects the front end. Anyway, regardless. And so, yeah, those small optimizations, when taken in magnitude of, thousands, millions, possibly even billions, depending on what you're doing, makes a huge difference in scalability.
Yeah. Yeah. Over
And,
time,
and
for
now
sure.
those that hadn't tuned out when you were talking have now tuned,
Yeah,
tuned
now they're done. Going back to bed. No, so to answer the original question, yeah, I mean the first programming experience was in the job, baptism by fire. I got hired to be a Python developer, and I never looked at Python before. I don't know how I got the job. No clue. They just they gave me a shot because I'd done some other stuff, and they're like, you seem cool, you seem nice, you seem smart. Let's get you in here. And I just faked it till I made it, and I wrote some really bad code for a while. But we had a really great peer review process, and I think when you're learning to program for the first time, especially if you're doing stuff in open source or putting it out there where other people can see it, learning how to accept feedback is probably the most valuable thing I learned. Because there was a time where I didn't know how to take feedback, and everything that was said about it, I take it personally. I'm stupid.
yep.
I'm bad. I'm the worst. And I finally, after working through it enough and meeting the people giving me feedback, the actual human beings on the other end, and knowing they were cool and we were hanging out and talking Star Wars a lot, I learned it wasn't me they didn't like, it was my code they didn't like. So when they didn't like the code, I learned how to blame my own code. Like, not me, just go, okay, this code does suck. They're not wrong. I know how to fix it. Let me redo it, and getting guidance, having somebody with you, that wants you to be better and help you be better is a huge component of it.
And not only that, once you've got more experience, you'll look back at your own code and be like, yeah, no, it sucked.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And even now, like 8 years into a career programming, look back at it, I'm like, a year ago, I'm like, who wrote this? And then I get blame on the code. I'm like, oh, I wrote it. That's okay.
So, like my first experience writing actual code and not like those little helper things that you're not
Mhm.
really doing the code. My first time writing actual code was actually my graphing calculator, my TI 83
Oh,
plus.
wow.
So our math book in high school had one example program in it. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And so I messed around with the calculator. I got it put in there, and it was real basic. It you put in the inputs for a formula, and it spit out the answer for you. And I'm like, okay, well, I can work with this. And over the course of the next couple of years, I made a pretty in-depth program that had dozens of functions that you just plug in the variables and it spits out the answer. So like quadratic formula, boom, put in ABC, it spits it out for me. And things like that. And I even went up to a couple of my teachers and I'm like, okay, I've put this on my calculator.
Mhm.
It will give me the answer for me. Am I allowed to use this on the test? And a couple of them were like, if you know the formula well enough to program it, you're good. You can use it on the test.
Wow.
And so, I was honest with them. And then a few of them were like, you can use it on there to double check, but you still need to show your work. I'm like,
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but they even got to the point where they were like, okay, everyone, you got to purge the memory on your calculator. Well, okay, all I got to do is archive it and then it won't get purged when you do the purge.
Oh, wow.
So there were ways you could archive programs so that when you did a clear memory, it didn't actually clear the program, which that would have sucked because at that point I didn't have a computer that I could hook it up to and back it up with. But you can hook up those to a computer and do the programming on the computer, but I didn't have that. I was doing all the programming on my calculator. There were even a couple of students that were like, hey, can I get that? I'm like, sure, give me $5. So I sold it to a couple of students.
That's amazing.
So that was my first experience with programming. And then I think my junior year, I took a C++ class in high school. And while a lot of the other kids were playing Unreal Tournament because all of this stuff was networked together,
Sure.
while I did that occasionally, but most of the time I was getting done with what we were supposed to do because you couldn't exactly have homework because everything's there. At that point, you weren't expected to have a computer at home. Dating ourselves. But off to the side, I was like, okay, there was a huge boom on Texas Hold'em on ESPN, and so I was like, okay, can I program Texas Hold'em in C++? And so I ended up doing it. Granted, there's no AI. It always just matched your bet automatically.
Okay, yeah.
But it had full it was just you against the computer. It had full hand comparison. It went through every step. And so looking back on it, I can remember little snippets of how I coded it, and it's atrocious, but it worked.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds awesome. You had my mind actually working through like how I would have done it. That's amazing.
And so my teacher ended up letting me skip the final project and let me turn that in as the final project. And so it was pretty, I was happy about it. She was happy about it. It ended up working out really well. So
I have two questions that have come to mind. First question, were you a good kid, Joe? Did you have a reputation for being the good gets his work done kid?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yes.
No, okay, that's fine because I was too. I was the good kid, so like I could get away with stuff other people couldn't get away with.
There was one time in high school where I got sent to the principal's office, and I was like, "What's going on?" Apparently, they had started a good referral process where you got sent to the principal's office. They called your parents and told them something great that you had done at school.
That's amazing.
So I got sent to the office with no context and didn't realize that this was a thing, and they're just playing it all straight face. We're gonna call your parents now. I'm like, what the heck did I do? I'm just sitting there thinking, and then they start praising me. I'm like, oh, okay.
This doesn't shock me somehow. I had a similar story that I got sent to the principal's office in 5th grade for popping a bag in the lunchroom, and I think it scared the crap out of the principal. But it was because a kid next to me wouldn't leave me alone and kept telling me like pop it. So I finally did it. So I get sent to the principal's office, and I'm like crying because I've never been to the principal's office before. And when I finally get to leave, he never like came in or did anything. They just eventually told me I could go. I got back to my classroom, and the kid that had told me to do the thing was in there writing sentences on the board. And my teacher was like, "Steven, I told him this isn't you. You don't do that stuff. Go play it. Go to the playground." I was like, wow, okay, this is what having a good reputation will earn you. But yeah, good kid power.
I got in trouble a couple of times in middle school. There was once where I was I don't know why. I don't remember even where I got them. I had some staples, like just like the full thing of staples, and I was picking them off one by one and throwing them at my friend. and so I got detention for that at one
Yeah.
point, which me and my friend both got it. So we just
Yeah.
our detention was helping the janitor clean up the school. So we're just having fun being ourselves and just kind of sort of helping out.
Yeah. Nice punishment.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
once where I woke up and I was half asleep and I grabbed the wrong shirt and we had a uniform. And so my shirt was the wrong color.
Uh-oh.
And so I was like, oh, because we had to wear either green or white, which were the school colors of polos.
Yeah.
And mine was like a blue-green shirt that I had grabbed.
Oh no.
And so I got sent to the principal's office. And at that point, I was on the wrestling team. And so the principal, he saw me all the time coming in early for wrestling weigh-ins, because you always do your weigh-ins in the morning where you're the lowest amount of weight because you haven't eaten anything.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, I know you didn't do it on purpose. And he gave me a sticker that was like, you're good for today type of thing.
Oh, nice.
So basically, it's a casual day for you.
Joe gets a casual day. I love it. I remember getting sent to detention one time because it was my 11th grade year and I still had this folder. In 11th grade, we had this folder through all of high school where you had to bring it home, bring it back to school with your parents and signed it with the work, So it's just basically to say they'd done the work. I always forgot to get my parents to sign it all the time. And so I'd get these demerits. And these or merit losses is what we called them anyway, and it would compound. So the first time you're unprepared, which is what a missing Friday folder was, I'd get one and then another one, then two, then 3 and 3. Anyway, when you got to less than 90 merits, because you started with 100, you had detention. So I just signed up okay, I guess I'm going to detention. They'll probably let me know when. And I never went for weeks. I had no idea until my friend was like, did you ever serve detention? And I said, they didn't tell me to. I didn't know when I was supposed to do it. He runs and tells the teacher, hey, do you know Steven hasn't served his detention? So she comes to get me and she says, Steven, go serve detention. I said, I don't know what to do. I've never been this in trouble before. So they sent me to detention and I'm sitting in the detention hall and one of the gym teacher, who was like the sheriff at the time, comes in and he looks around and he goes, Steven, what are you doing here? I was like, I forgot my Friday folder 10 times. And he was just like, what? Friday, go home. I was like, okay. It was the best. It was the best. But I did have one other question for you that was related to our programming conversation. And that question is, your first experience with a computer, where did you get to see one? And why? What did it captivate you enough where you're like, that's something I'm gonna need to mess with, and I want to have for myself at some point?
So the first time I saw a computer was at my dad's office, because he used it for his bookkeeping and whatnot. And that computer ended up crapping out on him, and he brought it home.
Oh,
and so I turned it on, and my dad was like, I don't even know how to get this to start. And I remember you just had to hit whatever key, but I typed in start and hit enter and thinking, oh, I cracked the code. But later I tried a few different things, and it didn't matter what you put in there. You just whatever. and all that it had on there was Snake. And so
nice.
I used it to play Snake. Whereas the one he replaced it with in his office, it had this this game on it where you each were gorillas, and you set the angle and velocity that you threw these exploding bananas.
Yeah.
So you're up on skyscrapers trying to blow up the opponent's gorilla by setting the different angles. And that was a fun
sounds
game.
Great. Yeah.
But but when I started playing with the computer at home, I remember, and I was probably 9, 10. My dad was like, you need to do something with computers.
Yeah.
And back then, the jobs for computers were pretty limited.
You had to be a genius to get a computer job.
Yeah. And so he was like, you need to do something with computers. And I obviously that ended up working out. It actually wasn't it wasn't even with all the programming stuff I did in high school, that wasn't my initial career goal when I went to college.
Oh, what was your initial career goal?
So my initial plan was to become an actuary. So
Well, wow. Okay.
you were talking about how you hate math.
Yeah.
And I took calculus my senior year of high school, AP calculus, and yeah. So I started college with like 10 or 12 math credits from taking AP calculus.
Dang.
So
All right,
yeah.
nerd.
Well, and that's so my senior year, I only went to school half the time because I had work release in the afternoon. So
Oh, wow.
I was working full time and going to school for half the day, and part of that half the day was calculus. And so yeah, so I was taking some college courses in high school and working full time
Dang, that's
my senior
amazing.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Gosh, smart people. I don't know what to do with you.
But yeah, yes, that was that.
Hmm.
I had sorry, I'm gonna backtrack back. You were talking about how you exploded the chip bag and got in trouble.
Yeah.
It made me think of a story that I had from my seventh or eighth grade year, where I was sitting in class in my reading class, and we had a substitute teacher that day, and I think I was tapping my foot on the ground or something, but the girl sitting behind me, apparently that made her very, very, very angry, and she didn't ask me to stop or anything, but it triggered her so bad. She walked up to my desk, grabbed all of my stuff, and threw it across the room.
Oh my gosh.
And so the teacher just assumed that we were both in the wrong and sent us both to in-school suspension.
Geez.
And the teacher later apologized because the entire class was like, Joe didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
the rest of the class stood up for me, and she apologized afterward, but she didn't come and get me to take me. I spent the rest of that period in school suspension. So
she understood, but she couldn't show the class her weakness.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was in private later that she apologized. But oh man, well, because I want to say normally if you got in school suspension, you also had like detention or something else that went along with it.
Oh, okay.
Like it wasn't just that, and so I didn't have to do the secondary punishment. It was
Mhm.
just the one part. But
Oh, good.
yeah,
That would have been a grave injustice. They would have planted flags all over the school. Your classmates would have rioted. It would have been a whole thing.
So my whole punishment for doing nothing except tapping my foot was to sit in that room seething at the injustice of it all.
When I get out of this room, I'll show them what for.
My teenage angst.
They'll never hear
So-
the last of Joe Ard. They'll rue the day.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's go ahead and
Roll that dice.
all right. Charles said he's listening, so we'll go ahead
Dad jokes are like Mojo Jojo. They're bad.
and go with dad jokes. Rumor has it you've got some queued up because
Oh, yeah.
I've been told we do have a one that was sent to me, but I was told that we specifically have to wait until Charles is actually on to use it. So we're not going to be using it tonight.
Fair
We'll
enough.
use it next week. But I'm told that you've got some. So what do
I
you
do.
got for me?
I do. This is courtesy of my fellow dad, Kent, who listens sometimes. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo?
I don't know. One's a little lighter.
One is big and the other is a little lighter. All right, I got one. I got three, but I'll do one more for you.
All right.
Lightning struck the orchestra, but only one person got hit. The conductor.
Science joke. Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Since we've been talking about math, this makes a lot more sense in written than it does spoken, but I'm going to do it anyway, and then I'll explain it for all the people who are not math nerds. So this comes to us from Tyler, aka the full run through, who's been in the chat tonight. Says the new pope has a degree in mathematics from Villanova University. This guy doesn't just understand sin, he understands co. So how you would actually pronounce that for math, it's cosine and sine. Oh man, which is why it works a lot better in written form than it does spoken form, because it's the play on words, but you pronounce it very different when you read them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Trigonometry.
I never did that.
Trigonometry makes Charles triggernometry.
Roll that dice.
All right.
What are you nerding out about now?
All right. So I asked you what you were nerding out about before we started the show, and you told me you were nerding out about cloud gaming. So let's hear about cloud gaming.
Well, I've been doing it for a little while, but it's fresh on my mind today because NVIDIA just released the GeForce Now app that runs natively on the Steam Deck. Instead of having to run GeForce Now through the Chrome browser through this hacky method on the Steam Deck, now there's a native app which gives you 120 FPS, HDR, all the things that browser-based GeForce Now can't give you.
Okay.
And I've been excited about this because I've been using it for a while. And about 2 years ago, I tried cloud gaming. I think it might have been through Xbox Cloud, or it might have been through GeForce Now, whatever. I found it to be kind of lacking. It had some problems that I didn't really care for. It felt like it took a long time to load games. So like I would get my GeForce Now set up, I'd go to the game, and then I'd wait while it either installed or updated or whatever. Because the way it works is there are all these virtual machines out in Amazon's cloud that have access to high-end video hardware so that you can play these games. But anyway, I've been loving it. I have not an underpowered PC, but a PC that's getting long in the tooth. I've got a 2080 Super graphics card, which is several years old now. And I wanted to play the new Indiana Jones game. This is what made me try it out. And the new Indiana Jones game requires RTX, and it wasn't coming out on the PS5, and that's the only console I've got. So I had to play it on PC, but I can't play it on my PC because my PC is too old. It'll run like trash. So I looked into it, and I was like, oh, I wonder what NVIDIA's GeForce Now is like these days. Because you could get a 4080 by paying $20 a month. You can get a 4080. You can play up to, I think it's 8-hour session. I'm a dad. I can barely get a 2-hour session. And so I was like, okay, let me give this a try. Some of those parameters have changed, but I'm grandfathered in, so I've got everything set now. But anyway, I loaded it up, and I'm playing Indiana Jones, 60 frames per second, RTX, most of the stuff cranked up to ultra. And as far as I can tell, I'm on my computer locally. The latency was unbelievable. The shadows are great. Everything's great. So I was having a great time with that. So then I was like, well, you can use GeForce Now on the Steam Deck through this hacky method. This was about a year or so ago. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. Oh my gosh. Like, you can play it on there. It looks gorgeous. Everything's running at the highest stuff. The Steam Deck couldn't dream to do that. So I'm playing high-end games on my Steam Deck over the cloud. And the thing that's really beneficial about it is that I'm playing it rendered on a machine somewhere else over in Virginia or wherever. So I'm effectively just doing video playback. Imagine just watching or you're interacting with a YouTube video. The battery lasts like 4 or 5 hours because it's not doing anything. It's not doing any heavy listening.
Just transmitting the input and accepting the video output. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So you can play. I had a friend who got into it after I did. He played on Delta's Wi-Fi on an airplane, playing Baldur's Gate 3 on high settings, and he said it was actually shocking how well it really worked. That was a turn-based game. It's not, it's not as latency driven. If you're playing a first-person shooter, maybe you need more response time. But like a game like that where it just pauses for a little bit and lets you make decisions perfect for even a high latency situation. Then I got even more creative, and I was like, they sell an NVIDIA box, the Shield. Like,
Yeah.
I could plug
They
that in.
discontinued that though, didn't they? Or did they
I think
recontinue it?
the Shield is still there. I think you can still buy. I bought mine at Best Buy like 6 months ago, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little longer. But yeah, it's a Shield Pro, so it does 4K and everything.
Okay.
So I was like, if I had a Shield that I could plug into the TV, then I could play GeForce Now games with all the bells and whistles on my television, like I have a console at home. That's how I've been playing Expedition 33. It's
Nice.
gorgeous. And I already have. And the cool thing is, even better, I don't mean for this to be an ad for GeForce Now, even though I know it's coming across as one. Xbox Game Pass works on GeForce Now. So if you've got the Xbox Game Pass for PC, all your Xbox Game Pass games run on GeForce Now. So I'm playing these games I'm already playing for on a high-end piece of hardware that will cost way less than a card I own. 4080s are in the, they're $1,000 or in 50. I guess it's 50s now. But regardless, the cost is really high. For $20 a month, it will take years for me to have spent the same amount of money it would cost me to buy a local graphics
By
card.
the time you pay it off, you'd be wanting to upgrade anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So the only downside is like I do some AI modeling stuff, and my graphics card is good enough for now. Eventually, I might want something different, but like that's a limitation because I can't make AI shenanigans out in the GeForce Now cloud. But like for gaming, I can't think of a better deal right now than GeForce Now and Game Pass like paired together.
Nice.
For that massive, I mean, you get day one. Doom just dropped. I mean, I got Indiana Jones on day one. I got like anything. Expedition 33 was a day one release. Oblivion's on there. Skyrim's on there. Then your Steam library. A lot of games you've got on Steam are available in GeForce Now the same way.
Well,
It's
and Steam's
incredible.
starting to integrate a lot more with Xbox and PlayStation stuff too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing.
Like everyone's monopolying together against Nintendo.
We're all partnering together to defeat Nintendo. Yeah, but I've been absolutely loving it. I think I played through almost all of Avowed on Game Pass through GeForce Now, and I can play on my desktop, I can play downstairs, I can play on my Steam Deck, I can play anywhere, and it's absolutely blowing my mind how good it looks, especially if you got a high bandwidth connection. Like you don't even need that strong. Like if you've got a basic now, like even cable internet, you're probably fine. Like I have Google Fiber
unless you
here.
have Charles's internet because his sucks.
Yeah, but Charles doesn't play games. He's too busy rock god podcasting, and saving lives and stuff.
Don't listen to Charles when he says Wi-Fi is all right. If you're cloud gaming, you want a hardline connection.
You generally, if the way one of the members of our community over Two Dorks says, if it doesn't move, it gets a cable. That's the rule. If it's stationary, cable it up. If it moves, you don't need different story.
Oh yeah, that makes me think of I had very limited experience with cloud gaming on the Nintendo Switch, but I do have some. We've got the Kingdom Hearts games on Switch, and the only way you can get those on the Switch is through a cloud version.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and playing that because Switch is meant to be both mobile and stationary. Playing it mobile sucks. Like it just straight up sucks. Whereas when it's docked, I've got an Ethernet cable running into the dock, and so it's connected through that, and it's better. But Nintendo needs to get their stuff together because it's not great. And if you don't have the Ethernet connected, I wouldn't recommend doing anything like. You can play Mario Party as a group over the internet. You can play Mario Kart as a group over the internet. I wouldn't recommend that unless you've got Ethernet, period. Yeah. Because I remember this was probably about a year or so back now. Charles and I tried to do a game night with anyone who wanted to play, and we played some Mario Party. and we were maybe 5 turns in, and it completely disconnected both of us from our respective games to where it just replaced the other person with a bot. And I was like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
There's
Not really
no
playing together anymore.
yeah, there was no reconnect protocol or anything like that. And so it's just, yeah, no, Nintendo does a lot of things right, but when it comes to digital stuff like that, anything over the internet, their stuff is really, really lagging behind.
Yeah.
So
Their
we'll see.
stuff feels old when it comes out. Like sometimes.
No, well, and that's how they keep costs down, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
What?
their goal is never to be on the cutting edge. Their goal is gimmicks and accessibility.
Yeah.
So they want stuff to they want their main lineup of games to be accessible to a wider audience, and approachable to a wider audience. And so that's and it's a marketable approach, obviously. So
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm taking a crap on Nintendo, because I'm not, because I love Nintendo. I think they do. I love their library of games they have. But like, if you look, so my son has a 3DS, which they discontinued, but he's still got his. And anytime he has to download a game, I'm just in the interface of the eShop. Like it was back when you remember the Wii's
back
little
when they
store.
still had an eShop, because
Yeah, when they had an eShop.
that's been discontinued. Yeah.
You can still download games you bought, but everything else is pretty much shut down.
Yeah.
And that'll eventually go away. But it feels so clunky and so dated. And I had forgotten, like, particularly if I fire up the Wii U, just the interface on it is just the sounds it makes, the music it plays just feels so old. And I mean, you can look at the old Xbox One or Xbox 360, and you still kind of see, like, yeah, this is dated, but see how it's functional. The Nintendo stuff is just like, why are they playing this obnoxious elevator music? You know, boop, 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 boop. It's just,
Bum, bum.
it's awful. It's everything about it is terrible. I don't know if they had anybody check it out before they're just like, looks great, ship it. I need to sell more Mario.
Oh, Mario. But anyway,
Yeah.
transitioning from video games.
Yeah.
My wife, she checked out a book through Libby app.
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with Libby?
That's the library
Yeah.
checkout deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an app where you can connect with you can put your library card information in there, and you can use the library digitally. So she checked out an audiobook on there called The Prison Healer. Let's see, Prison Healer by Lynette Noni or Noni, Noni. And she listened to it, and she's like, "Ooh, I really like this, Joe. I want to talk to you about it, but I think you should." And so sometimes she'll give me the premise, and I'll be like, "Okay, I'll give it a listen to," or I'll be like, "That doesn't really interest me, but I would love to hear why you loved it," type of thing.
Yeah.
And so this one, she gave me the premise of it, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try." And she still had. We only have the one account because we just have the one library card for the family, and so I was like, "Okay, just don't check it back in yet, and I'll give it a listen, because when you check it out, you have 2 weeks with it."
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so I sped through it, and we still ended up checking it back in a few days before it was due, even with both of us finishing it. And yeah, no, it was really good. And we're probably gonna have to wait several months for the next book to become available on the Libby app. But they're both it's a trilogy, and both the next 2 books are on there.
Oh, cool.
Which I've run into other ones where only the first book is available, at least in our library. So I've actually started looking to see if there's some major libraries that let you like pay to have access to their stuff. So like,
yeah.
And I guess there's some of the New York libraries let you pay like $50 or $100 a year to give you access to it. So I need to do more research, but we might consider doing that, because with how much we use the Libby app, having a larger selection will get our money's worth. But anyway.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. This book it says it's for fans of Sarah J. Maas. Now, my wife reads Sarah J. Maas books, And I've read some of these books, and they can be awfully spicy, Joe. Is this a
Correct.
spicy book?
No.
Okay.
I don't know about the next two books, but the first one, now, it not being spicy and it being accessible for a younger audience are two very different things.
Okay, sure.
But it is not spicy. But there are different scenes where adults will be like, "Oh, that's a lot darker when you understand the context."
Okay.
So yeah, some of the things that the guards do, not
Okay.
good.
Yeah, got it. It looks cool,
So-
though. The cover's really pretty.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Yeah.
So the preface is this girl, some royal guards came to half of her family because the rest of her family fled when they found out about it, or they weren't there and then they fled rather after finding out about it. Came and were arresting her dad because he was supposedly seen with the rebel faction who's trying to overthrow the government. And he's like, I see a lot of people. I'm in the marketplace.
Mhm.
Just because I'm near them doesn't mean anything. And they weren't hearing anything of it. And so they start to arrest the dad. She's 7 at the time. Her younger brother apparently has a knife and goes to attack the guard that's arresting her dad, and the guard kills him. So her brother's dead, and her dad are sent to this prison where she willingly states that, or like, it's an understanding that it's kind of a Count of Monte Cristo scenario where
Mhm.
not everyone there is guilty. In fact, a lot
Yeah.
of people are innocent and just guilty by association or things like that. But they're also intermingled with, like actual serial murderers and things like that. So her dad, though, on the outside was a healer. He did medicine and things like that. And so very early on he was put into the infirmary at the
Ooh.
at the prison. So he became a prison healer. By the time the story begins, though, because a lot of this is seen through flashback, it's actually 10 years later. So she's 17 now. She's been in the prison for 10 years, for a decade. Her dad died to an illness like 9 years previous. So she was like 8 when her dad died. And she is now the prison healer, trying to use whatever knowledge she had gained from her dad along the way. And so there's a lot of politics involved in the inside of the prison. She only gets snippets of news on the outside about what's going on between the rebels and the royals. She wasn't associated with the rebels prior to going to prison, and even in prison she's not hyper associated with them, but she hates the royals because
Oh.
because it was the royal guards that ruined her family, ruined her life. And then it's not it doesn't play a huge role in the day to day, but there is magic in this world as well, but only other than rare anomalies, only the royals have magic.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So yeah. But yeah, no, it is really good. It's got elements of mystery to it where you're trying to solve a couple of different mysteries that are going along. And yeah, I like I said, I don't recommend it for a younger audience because some of the stuff is heavier. There is several different times where it uses some derogatory language as well, but no f-bombs. But still, there is language. And yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It ended on a cliffhanger, but the series is done. So
Yeah.
the first book ending on a cliffhanger isn't that big of a deal. Either the author was really quick in writing them, or she already had all 3 prepped and ready, at least mostly the first
Yeah.
the first drafts of them, because they came out like the first book and then like 6 months and then 6 months. Like they came out real quick. Like within the span of 2 years, all 3 books had been published.
Oh wow. Yeah,
So
I feel like people have learned from the Name of the Wind tragedy that is Patrick Rothfuss's books, and they just like don't accept unfinished trilogies anymore.
yeah. So I am excited to see where the story goes. The first book is a heavy opener. And yeah, the cliffhanger right at the end. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, but it makes you view the rest of the book through a different lens. You're like,
That's
"Ooh,
awesome.
that scene hits very differently now that the cliffhanger has happened," or and so it
Yeah.
makes you reevaluate everything that happened. And to me, when books do that, it makes the rereadability that much more, because then you can reread it with a fresh new perspective, be like,
Yeah.
oh, the nuance here is very different than when I read it the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
That's like watching The Sixth Sense twice, like you watch
yeah.
it differently. Yeah.
Or
That's cool.
or one of my favorite anime, Steins Gate.
Yeah,
I enjoy,
Steins Gate too. Same way.
have you you've watched Steins Gate?
I know about all the gates.
So I've mentioned it a few times on here, but Steins Gate, I went into it completely blind, just on a recommendation. I didn't know at all what it was about.
Mhm.
And the first half of it, I'm like, what even the heck is this anime? But I trusted the person who recommended it to me. So about episode 11-ish, about halfway through the first season, a switch flips. You're like, oh my. And then you just can't stop. Like you have
Oh
to
wow.
binge the rest of it. And so, because I was like, what the heck is going on? My first watch through, I was like, what? And so
Mhm.
I actually enjoyed it more the second time I watched it than I did the first time.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that where you have to watch it once to figure out what they're trying to do, and then the second time you can enjoy yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that a lot of the M. Night Shyamalan ones, you can watch them twice, but that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Just watch them the 2 times.
Well, I mean, just like you said, Sixth Sense. Watch
Yeah.
it twice, and you're good.
You've seen it. Yeah,
'Cause
you're
the
good.
shock factor's gone.
Right.
And, I mean, I love the Sixth Sense, but rewatches are extremely boring. To be
Oh,
completely blunt, like the movie in and
yeah.
of itself is all the buildup is what it is. It's the suspense from the buildup,
Yeah.
and yeah,
When a movie exists for the twist, it loses its luster because you've seen it. Saw's the same way. Saw was a movie that left my jaw on the floor at the end, but now I know, that once you know, and it's like I don't need to watch it again. Like I don't enjoy watching
seen the-
people get tortured for funsies.
I've seen the first Saw, but isn't there
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 of them?
There's like 7. I only saw the
7?
first one. I never watched any of them after that. But the first one, honest to goodness, like mouth dropped open at the end, and I was like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
It was great. But no, I don't need to watch them just to see how they can invent new ways to hurt people. That wasn't why I watched the first one.
No, it was the mystery behind it. Like,
Yeah, the mystery was what pulled
what's
me
going
in.
on?
Yeah, why are they here? Yeah.
So, but anyway, let's go ahead and
Roll that dice. Roll that dice. Roll that dice.
I think we've already done. You know what? I'm just gonna do.
Time for a commercial break.
All right, let's see. We've got some music here. Let's find one and play it. Sure. We'll go with that. So this music is from a band that nobody's ever heard of called Freckle Stash. And it was my brother's high school band.
That's why I've never heard of it.
I don't even know if you could find any of their music anywhere. I just happen to have this one. But I actually sent this to him a few years ago. He's like, you should send this to the leader of the band too. And they were like, I didn't even know anyone still had a copy of this.
That's awesome.
But anyway, you can you can support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/wise_n_nerdy. If you want to give us a call and leave a speak pipe, which we will be playing several of those here in a little bit, you can head on over to wiseandnerdy.com/calldad to leave a speak pipe. You can answer the question of the week at that website. It lists the upcoming questions of the week, so if you forget, they're there. But yeah, where can they find you, Steven?
Oh man, probably the easiest place is over at Linktree, linktr.ee/Steve H&H. You can find me over there. We did just recently launch a new podcast called 24 FPS Presents with my good friend TV's Travis, where we have gone through the entire Fast and Furious franchise, and we're talking about it. We just released episode 4, Fast and Furious, which is different than The Fast and the Furious. We have had an absolute blast. Yeah, so it has been a wonderful journey. If you'd like to go on that trip with us, you can find links to 24 FPS Presents at tvstravis.com.
There you go. So, and this song, if anybody wants it, I suppose I could ask my brother if I can distribute it. But yeah, it's not bad, especially for a high school band. So, but yeah. Let's see. The question of the week for June 19th is, if you could travel to anywhere in the world, where would it be? That's a good one. I've thought about a lot of different places that I would like to travel to. So, but yeah, anywhere in the world. All right. We do have a few speak pipes to play. Let's see. We will start with Tyler, the full run through, who's been here in the chat tonight. Let's see what he has to say.
The topic of prom got brought up a couple of episodes ago, and it got me thinking of back when I was in high school and when I went to prom. It just felt like there was a lot of lines going on. Like I had to wait in a long line to get my tickets. That took forever. I had to wait in a super long line at the tuxedo rental place. There were just, everyone decided to show up all at the same time. I had to wait in a long line there. Had to wait in a long line to get into the building. Like once we actually got there and we're trying to park and it's just valet and there's just a long line of cars that we have to wait on. And then obviously we have to wait in a long line behind all of the students trying to get into the event hall. And it just seemed like it was line after line after line. It was crazy. And then I got inside and I was like, look, I've been standing outside. I'm in a tux. It's super hot. I don't want to just stand around anymore. So I walked over to the refreshment table and I was like, I just need something to drink. I just really need something to drink. So luckily I get all the way across the event hall to the refreshment table and there's no punchline.
That was so good. Tyler gets the belt. That was
took me a half a second to realize.
That was so good.
Oh, he got us.
Well done. Well done.
Oh,
Tyler.
man. I did not see that one coming. I did not see that one coming.
Not from miles away.
Oh, man. Oh, shoot. I just saw a message from Tyler. He said I was supposed to wait for Charles on that one.
Oh, shoot.
Maybe I'll just have to play it next week and we get Charles's reaction. We'll see. All right. This next one comes to us from Devo site, and it's actually split into two parts. He's commenting on last week we had Manny Faces on, and he commented about how basically all dental hygienists are super cute, is basically what he said. So he's commenting on that comment. So here we go.
I am dying over the last episode when Manny Faces says there must be a stripper to dental hygienist pipeline because my wife is a registered dental hygienist. And it even got more funny, Charles, when you tried to explain it to me. So, yeah, that is funny. And, of course, she's a Zoom instructor, which is even, I don't know, the stereotype and yeah, that was really funny. Funny enough, that actually really does strike a chord, and it merits an entirely different speak pipe. So I will leave that later. And yeah, it's bizarre and but funny at the same time.
So we have a follow-up, but we have Charles in the chat, and he sent me a text. He heard the punchline from Tyler. He says I hate him. Oh, you got him.
I love him. I'm using that one in my daily life. I'm gonna come up with a way to tell that story.
Oh, all right. We have another bit about the dental hygienist from Devo's site.
Okay, dental hygienist story. Not my wife, but one of her coworkers quit dental hygienist. And she done it for years. She was good at, but she just was tired of it. And she calls up my wife. They're still good friends, and said, "Hey, I've got this great opportunity. Do you know that people will pay to see your feet on OF?" My wife's like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Yeah, you can make a lot of money. What do you say?" And she's like, and by the way, your husband, he knows a lot about this, right? He does your videos for Zumba." And it just went down so long, and you can only imagine where this went. But yes, that was the funniest thing, and she talked about it for a while. And she never did it, but when she brought that up, I just died laughing and said, "You got to be kidding me, right?" She's that personality. When you say the pipeline, she wasn't, but she kind of fits that stereotype that Manny Faces was saying about the, cute, young, blonde, fun, friendly hygienist. So it was, yeah, spot on, but not really. But you get the point.
Why is that the nurses, dental hygienists kind of thing? I don't understand it either. I don't know where it comes from. Manny Faces is onto something.
Yep.
He's onto something.
Well, and apparently nurses are one of the professions that are unfaithful the most. So we'll just put that out there. Not saying there's any correlation, but
my dentist, this is no joke. Okay, so my neighbor, his wife was a dental secretary. She worked in a dentist office. She's very attractive. Well, we knew in the neighborhood that she had been caught with the dentist, and her husband, my neighbor, had punched him in the face. And I go into a dentist appointment that week, and sure enough, dude's got a black eye, and he's telling everybody he fell off a ladder. But it was fun kind of being in the know because they lived across the street from me that was not what happened to him.
Quite the euphemism, falling off the ladder.
Yeah, gotta be careful out there.
All right. Oh, Charles.
Roll that dice.
He's trolling us in chat. All right.
Council of Dads.
The Parliament of Papas.
The Parliament of Papas. Exactly.
I have to say it because Charles isn't here to do it.
All right. This comes to us from Tyler, aka the full run through. He posted this in our Discord and wanted us to weigh in on the show. It says, "What do I do if my wife almost forces me to be the bad cop as soon as I get home from work?" And then he provides some context. The kiddo is out of school, so she has had him all day. According to her, he has fought her on every request of the day: meals, cleaning, brushing teeth, everything. Once I get home, she is in the locked bathroom crying, and when I come in, she says I need to do something about it. I haven't been home all day to witness the issues. Not saying I don't believe her, I just don't know the context. But I don't want to just out of the blue come into the kid's room and start yelling and making demands and accusing him of things that he isn't going to understand why he's in trouble. We've even been told by professionals to not reprimand him for things in the past, but to do it in the moment, which I don't know if she did, but she was so overwhelmed, she didn't seem like she was able to. And then to add a little bit more context, because we've talked about it on the show before, he is also on the spectrum, which is probably also why the professionals are saying don't reprimand him for things done in the past. You have to do it in the moment so that he associates the behavior with the moment.
Yeah.
So, but I think even in general, there is this dichotomy a lot of times where, and this might be a bit of archaic thinking, where the dad is expected to be the punisher, or just one parent is often the punisher and one is the not so punisher.
Yeah. Wait until your father gets home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I guess how do you handle that?
What a wild familiar scenario.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you provided me this context before the show, and this is the first time I've heard it, because otherwise it would just because I've been musing about it all day. I've been sitting around thinking like, how do there's no answer, right? I don't think there's a silver bullet to any of this stuff. I think the only approach in a family unit to any of this is care and understanding, and an extreme amount of patience. Because I've talked about this publicly, and my wife knows I've talked about it publicly, but she had postpartum depression when our child was really, really young. Until she got some help, like it went to actual counseling, got actual help, actual diagnosis.
And I think that happens a lot more than people
Oh yeah,
are willing to admit. I mean, mental health issues happen way more often than people care to admit in general, but postpartum can be especially tough, just because it's not just everything that you're dealing with up here. You are physically exhausted to put it on top of that, so it's very exacerbated. But
you're not yourself. You don't recognize anything that you're doing. It's a whole gamut of stuff. But anyway, like that, this reminded me a lot of times when I would come home from work and my son had 2 or 3. I don't know how old Tyler's kid is. I don't have an age, but either way, on the spectrum, there's probably some difficulties there that I'm not even familiar with, even in that context. But he would be, I'd walk in the door and I often didn't know if I'd walk into my wife and him playing on the floor or her collapsing into just being like, take him. I gotta go. And it was the most challenging time of my life, right? It was really difficult, but I think the best thing I knew to do is walk in and be the new parent, even if work was really hard.
Yep.
Hard work for me was hard work with adults that I could at least reason with. And I had to start choosing. This is a big word. You're choosing to look at your kid as the energy provider for you. Like, I'm now excited to be, that's not always going to come naturally. Sometimes you're like, oh gosh, being a dad is the hardest thing. Why do I have to do this right now? I just had the worst day at work. But you got to pick a different emotion to run with.
Yeah.
And I did that by taking and be like, I'm going to put my stuff down. Let me get organized. And he and I are going to go down to the park. And luckily, we have a little park right down the street. And I let him play on the swing set and go down the slide and stuff and give her some room. And I think
And often that's the best thing you can do is
Yeah.
let them have some time to themselves to decompress. I think probably the worst thing you can do is, and I've seen people do it, and I've been guilty of it several times, is
Mhm.
matching the manic energy that your spouse is putting off.
Yeah.
You know, I subconsciously do it a lot of times because I feel that solidarity with my
Mhm.
wife just naturally, and it's a very natural inclination to match that energy. But I think the wiser course is to keep the calm and allow your spouse time to decompress.
Yeah, it's just raising kids is the hardest job on earth. It's the most rewarding, but is the most difficult. And it can, um, if you aren't on equal footing with your spouse, like in understanding of each other's emotion, where are you at? Where am I at? How are we going to get through this challenge? And you facing it as a team, it can get really sketchy. So, like one of the things that I talked about this, I think, on the show once before, the spoon system. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if you're
How
walking and
many
your wife's
spoons you got?
crying, she's got 0. If you've got 2, just take your kid and go somewhere for a little bit, because it's you love your kids, but we're also human and we need a break. And when school's out, yeah, it's a whole different. My kid's 10 and school's out, and I'm still like, oh man, he's gonna be home like all day. What are we gonna
Yep.
do? Becomes a whole
Well,
new challenge.
well, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom who's homeschooling all 3 of our kids. So
Oh yeah, you
she,
got a whole different thing going on.
that she doesn't get breaks. So
Right.
when she asks for a break, I'm like, no, go back there,
Mhm.
lock yourself in the bedroom and take some time. I can handle this.
Yeah. I think one of the things in Tyler's note that concerned me the most, if I had something that concerned me, is this use of the word forced. My wife almost
Yeah.
forces me to be bad cop. I don't I don't think it's healthy for either of you to force either of you into any kind of position. But
Well,
that's where the
and
work comes in.
to add just a tiny bit more context, in case you didn't realize this, Tyler is also a stepfather,
Okay.
which adds a
That's a
whole nother
different.
dynamic to it.
Yeah.
So
But even still, your stepfather who knew there was a kid who volunteered to this, you've been given an amazing position.
yes,
Uh
but it does
of
add another
it adds.
context to it.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to discount it. And probably I will listen back to everything we said and be like, why did I say that? Was stupid.
Well, because I can only imagine as a stepfather, you're second guessing
Oh yeah.
every interaction,
Hmm.
and so, well, I mean, if you're a good stepfather,
Yeah.
because if you're not second guessing yourself, um, then you're probably screwing up. and,
That's the
and
way
that
that it
goes for
goes.
parents in general, to be honest,
Oh yeah.
because you're no one is a perfect parent. You're just doing the best you can.
Oh, 100%. You're the best you can with the tools you've got. I think the best thing you can do in any of this situation is be the best husband you can be.
Yep.
Um, that's really like the way I look at it, and the way me and my wife try to operate is we love our son, but the first relationship that ever was in this house was ours. And that
Yep.
matters massively. Like Sam can be unhappy with me and be angry and whatever, but like if Stephanie's mad at me, something I've got to fix that. Like something's wrong. Because it's the foundation. Sam can have a healthy, he can know he's safe at home because we get along and we put a lot of effort into making sure he knows we're happy and we're in a good place, and we're affectionate around him. Like I'm always telling him, like, Sam, I love your mom. She's just the best. She's just the best person. So he never has to worry about being in a place that's not, that's not together. It's not safe for him. And I know not everybody has a relationship like that, and I understand that for sure. But it's something worth working towards. And So I think really at the root of this is if you're the best husband, you're looking out for your wife the best you can. It works both ways, but all you can control is your attitude. You can't control hers. Just give her time when she needs time, and you do that enough, and it'll start to help. You'll start to see the progress in this situation of feeling forced to be bad cop. Don't come in guns blazing, pew pew pew. Let me get my belt out. It's time to punish children. Just go. When he gets to you, it's a new day and it's new situations. And then if he gets to where he's understanding more about past stuff, and I know you've got a different situation than normal, but I've talked to my son before. It's like, did you think about when this happened today? And just kind of review it.
Review the day, talk about what you could have done better. Maybe even try to build some empathy. Say, this was tough on your mom today. Do you know why it was tough on her? Do you what happened? Can you just get their side of it, I guess. And if you can get them reflecting on it, it'll build empathy, and empathy. Kids lack empathy.
Yeah,
they just do. And thinking back on when I was a kid, there were times where it wasn't that I wasn't being considerate. I just didn't know to be considerate because I lacked empathy. I wasn't mature in that way. And so there were times where I did very insensitive things that it didn't occur to me not to do it that way. But as I've gotten older and I've reflected on it and thought about it, I'm like, oh, I was a little hellion at that time. And it's just with experience comes wisdom and empathy, and you can relate more, and you can more easily put yourself in other people's shoes to a certain extent. And but you can still foster that understanding in your child by having those discussions.
Yeah, and learn to be open with your own emotions with your kid. They don't know how to handle emotions if you don't show them. I mean, I think it's important to talk about what you went through. Like, I was really disappointed today, or I got real angry today, and this is what I felt, or I'm kind of anxious about this or that. Because that's the only way they're going to learn how to handle their own is if you can name your own emotions. That's so important. I learned about this technique. I'm sorry, Joe, real quick, but I learned about this technique because so many men are detached from their own emotional. They don't have any emotional EQ, whatever that is. Emotional IQ. I don't know what you call it. They don't have it. And so there's actually therapists that have given men who struggle. They either are angry or they're fine. There's no other things going on. Cards that have different emotions written on them: depressed, cornered, sad. And dudes have literally started to get angry and go, what is this really? And look through the cards and be like, oh, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because it gives a name to the emotion.
What type of anger is this?
Right. Yeah. Right. It gives them if you can name something, you can control it. If you can't name it, it runs around all over the place and you don't know what to call it or what to do with it. But if you can name it, you can pinpoint, I am anxious. You can help your brain put it in the back seat so you can drive.
When you said disappointed, I imagined the card being that meme clip from the Hercules TV show. Disappointed.
Yeah. But really, you teach your kids how to manage their emotions by managing your own and learning what they are. And I mean, I'm a 40-year-old man. I've had to figure this stuff out.
Yeah. Well, and I have this tick, I guess you could call it, where if people are hovering behind me, it makes me anxious.
Yeah.
I have identified it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're preparing dinner and stuff, my kids have a tendency to hover.
Yeah.
And so I'm focused on dinner. I'm I just got off work, focusing on getting dinner ready, focusing on trying to do, to be honest, trying to do a lot of things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then add on to that, I've got a kid hovering and I'm getting anxious. And so there have been many times where I've told my boys, I'm getting overstimulated. I need you to go somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
And I haven't always handled it that way. The many times I've handled it very poorly, but
Mhm.
when I'm in a calmer mindset, that's how I prefer to handle it, is tell them nicely to go away.
Yes, yes. It's so hard. Like driving around a human body all day is exhausting, and you run out of the ability to control sometimes. I mean, I've fussed at Sam over dumb stuff plenty of times. And I'm just like, but then I'm also sitting there sometimes when I am in control, I'm like you said, like if he's laying all on me when I'm trying to do something, like, I love you, but I need you to put some space between me and you right now. You know what I mean? I always lead with this is not your fault. I am having a thing I'm dealing with. I need you to give me a little bit of breathing room.
Yep.
You know, and I think we've gone beyond Tyler's initial question, but like it's hard. I learned to forgive yourself, learn to forgive your wife, learn to forgive your kid, and none of that has anything to do with them. All of that has everything to do with you. That's an inside thing. What forgiveness does, it doesn't impact anybody else. It just impacts what you're carrying around with you. So I think that's the best answer I have. There's no silver bullet. Just give as much of yourself as you can. Give as much patience as you can. If you need to drive an extra block, one more loop around the block, listening to a radio, meditate, you know, whatever it takes to get you into a good place before you open the door when you get home. I think that's what your assignment is, to try to get in a good place before you open the door so you can take your kid and go somewhere. Give your wife some breathing room.
All right. Well, we've got one more segment tonight, and it is
How do I?
And the How Do I segment somewhat relates to the Parliament of Papas that we just did. I've been thinking, it is summer now, and it's very easy to say, you know, just go play with your electronics, go watch TV, go whatever. But we all know that's not the best way to parent. So the How Do I is, how do I establish boundaries for screen time without constant battles?
Oh.
Yeah, that's the hard part. That stipulation.
You're not going to like my answer.
Okay, let's hear it.
I don't have any rules about screen time.
Oh, okay.
I've got none. I've got no screen time rules. And much like the other situation, it all depends on your kid. It all completely depends on your kid's habit, how glued to the screen he is. The most rule I have is if I come down and I know Sam's been watching YouTube for like an hour in the morning, I'm like, dude, that's you becoming a couch potato. Why don't you go? Oh yeah, I was gonna turn it off after this one, and I just kept going. Okay, then yeah, let's turn it off after this. Let's go do something. And that sometimes works for me. What I have found is, and this again, just my experience alone, is we've never been super restrictive on the stuff that he does. Like we're more restrictive over content than we are of the screen itself, because I don't believe all screen time's created equal. I think.
Oh yeah, no, that is. I love that you said that, because sometimes what we'll do instead of taking away the screen altogether is we'll say, okay, let's switch to educational mode. You can have screen time, but it needs to be educational. And we have a rather broad interpretation of that. So like, we'll be like, okay, educational time, and they'll go watch some of the more educational YouTubers like Mark Rober.
Great.
Mark Rober, Zach Builds.
Yes. I love Zach Builds.
Yeah. So they've been watching those lately. Or our youngest will go turn on Wildcrats, for instance, you know, something like that. And so that's a way to get more quality out of the screen time than, you know, the mindless other stuff that they could be doing. But my wife actually shared something with me, and I don't know if she's implemented it or not. I need to actually talk to her. I I don't think she has because I haven't heard the kids mention it. But she saw a post on one of the social medias where this this parent says, "Look, here's the checklist. You have unlimited screen time if you do the checklist first." And so on the checklist is like, make your bed, read for half an hour, and just a few different things. So whatever it is, you could say, okay, do these things first, then go ham, do whatever.
Yeah.
And so that at least structures it out a bit to where, number one, it's fostering responsibility, and it's also putting how much screen time on them, that if they can get it done efficiently, then they can have a lot of screen time. If they hem and they haw and they drag their feet, they don't get much screen time. And so I think that's a great way to approach it, in saying, hey, you can have the screen time, just these are the prerequisites. One of the other things is devices. A lot of devices will let you put a limit on the screen time. So like my kids have what I consider a pretty generous allotment of 3 hours for Steam.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, 3 hours, that's your Steam time. Go do something else, please. And so 3 hours a day is, for a lot of people that are very anti-screen, they're like, that is way too much. And then there's other people that are like, they have a limit. And so you got to do what works for your family and for your kids. Because at least personally, we've noticed that when we pull them away from some of the mindless screen time, they have less behavioral issues.
Yeah.
When we take it away for the day, when it's time to pack it up, because they have those withdrawals from not getting those dopamine hits. Or I think that's, anyway,
I think that's
depending
right.
on the content, I think it's dopamine. Anyway, from the addictive chemical that their brain is releasing. So
the way we usually do it, we have a handful. I'd say we don't have any rules. We have a handful of rules. I prefer that he doesn't watch React videos because I find them to be mindless. That's a me thing that I'm pushing on him. But like, just watching other people talk about what other people did drives me bonkers. So I'm like, find something constructive if you're going to watch YouTube. If he has friends over, so this is a little bit different. Maybe this is a little different because I have an only child. So he's by himself a lot of the time. There's not a lot of kids running around our neighborhood either. So it's kind of difficult for him. But if he has friends over, no screens for like 2+ hours. Like he's got friends over. Let's do things with our friends. Let's go outside. Let's play Legos. Let's do something like that. After 2 hours, it's usually not too long when their parents are going to come get them anyway. So they're like, you guys can play Mario Kart or whatever for a little while, and that's fine. But what I found with him is when he was really young, we established like, I'm okay with you using this stuff, but if I need you to do something else, the amount that you're going to get to do depends on how much pushback I'm getting when I need you to change gears. Like if you start fighting me and it becomes like a big deal, there'll be a lot less of this because I know that you've got that impulse control where it becomes more of an addictive behavior. Like I take it away and you can't function unless you get it back. He's never been that way. So like if he's playing the Switch and I say, Sam, let's go Target and look around or something. Let's get out of here. Okay. And he's not always got to buy anything. He's one of those kids too. We can just go look at stuff. And he says, can you take a picture of this for my Christmas list? Sure, bud. And we can leave. There's no tantrums or anything. He's got really good handle on himself with that kind of stuff. So it makes a difference. But yeah, like in the summer, it is harder, but we don't make a big deal out of it. And a lot of times when he has friends over, we went camping recently with a bunch of our buddies, and Sam plays games. Like we don't restrict it. Like I said, if he plays it when he wakes up in the morning, it's fine. During the weekday, if he finishes homework, he can play. But one of the kids I was there with, he was like 8, 9, same age as Sam. And we're walking around and I'm like, dude, you look kind of down today. It's a Saturday. He says, yeah, I don't get to play my Switch today because we're at camp. And I usually get up on Saturday. I can play it at 7:30 to 10 o'clock, but I don't get to do it today. I said, but you think of all the friends you've got here. I know, but it's my only day that I get to play the Switch, and I can't today. And I was like, that's a whole different perspective on the limitations, because he can't ever play it. He can't even enjoy the time that he's got that is a special day,
Yeah.
because it's taking him from the thing. And it's not dissimilar from a kid I knew when I was young who wasn't allowed to have candy at home, but he would come to my house and just eat every bit of
Gorge
it.
on it.
Because we had a candy jar, and I would go get a piece every now and then because it was available to me. It wasn't special. It was just there. For him, candy was a forbidden fruit, and he would eat all of our candy out of the jar. My mom would come and be like, "What? Where did it go? Did you eat all of it?" "Yes, ma'am." You know? And it's like restriction almost breeds a desire to do more of it where you can. And also, he
Well, and
wouldn't stay home up very often because he could get what he wanted at his friends' houses. So he wouldn't, home was not safe, comfortable where he wanted to be.
Yeah, well, and that's such a common story in general. These people who come from hyper restrictive families that just go completely off the deep end when they get a
Mhm.
small taste of freedom as an early adult.
Yeah.
And because they're never taught to moderate anything
Yeah.
at all.
They've had
And-
external moderation factors in their parents. So they've
Yeah.
never learned to internally deal with this stuff. So they just go nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had some friends as teenagers that I went to church with that their parents limited everything. And
Yeah.
several of their kids, they went off the deep end. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's
Like-
a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, a lot of teen pregnancy as soon as they got to college. And it's like, what did you guys do?
Yeah.
But those parents would look at my parents and think they were crazy for letting us do what we did, but then I didn't have those problems.
So I fully understand the desire to protect your kids from bad choices,
Mhm.
but if you don't let them make any choices, then they don't know how to make choices.
Yeah, they have to
So,
learn.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like with my kids being homeschooled. Um, I wish they took more tests.
Yeah.
And it's not because I think they need more tests. It's because testing is a skill.
Yeah.
And it's something that when they get to college, when they've got to take tests, I worry.
Mhm.
So we'll see. But yeah, in general, if you don't expose your kids to something, when they get exposed, they won't know how to react.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I just didn't come from a lot of rule making. My parents weren't rule makers. Their parents weren't rule makers. So I don't know how to do it. And unfortunately for me, I was just a good kid by nature. I didn't like wrestle. I didn't like being in trouble. And my son's the same way. He doesn't like being in trouble. He inherited that from me and his mom. So like I don't have to establish a lot of rules because he's not always trying to get into mess. And two, like when you're a parent, you kind of have to change strategies as they age. Like you got to do
Mhm.
different things. When they're little, you're kind of telling them what to do all the time. Then as they get older, you kind of let them get into more like I let my kid use my pocket knife tonight, and he's 10. I was whittling wood at 6, but I'm like still nervous about him using a pocket knife. But he's got to do it. He's got to do it. So I had to just really stop catastrophizing for a second. If he cuts himself, we'll handle it. No big deal. He didn't. He did great. But then, like as they get to teenage years, your voice is diminished a lot, and really, only thing you can do is kind of guide their decisions and help them think through stuff. Like, you really think that going to that party is going to be like? I mean, you know who's going to be there. You still want to go? I'll let you go. You just text me when you want to pick me up, but I want you to just think about what's going to happen if what is your strategy if somebody does this or that.
Work
You
through
know, and-
scenarios with them so that they've already got a game plan.
Yeah, and it's not like I want to build additional anxiety. It's just I've had experience, and I want them to be like, okay, when you go, if this is something that happens or you get uncomfortable, you let me know. We'll discreetly pick you up I'll tell them your grandma died or something. We'll make something up. You know what I mean? Like,
Your grandma's died.
Why is your grandma dying all the time? I don't.
But some of them were biological. Some of them were symbolic grandparents.
Yeah, my family's weird.
Hey, just because I have more branches on my family tree doesn't mean it's less of a tree than yours, okay?
Yeah, it's the bottom line. I think we've learned tonight. The theme has been that kids are hard, and everything is hard, and there's no answers. You can't min-max your children. You can cook with them. You can shop with them. You can go do all kinds of crazy stuff with them when they're little and say no screens ever, and they will still find ways to do things you don't approve of. It's just so just be a part of their life. Don't try to deny them their life the whole time they're growing up. Be a part of it.
Just remember, it could always be worse. You could be your own grandpa.
Follow these nerdy dads on social media. Charles at Rock God of Podcasting. Joe at Joseph_Ard. Check out the website, wiseandnerdy.com. And as always, they may not be your father, but they'll always be your daddy.
Shut up, Mike.
Man, we worry about screen time, but what did other people back in the day worry about? Oh, they're reading too much.
Yeah, they did when the